Who is raising the bar in the world of spirits? On today's menu, you may be surprised to see the lengths that some people will go to reinvent the cocktail. Tony Coniaro mixes drinks like you've never seen.
There's a new line of thought of where cocktails are going.
Liquor from high atop India's celestial tree of everything.
Men begin their day with toddy and end their day with toddy.
Imbibing artisanal spirits in Chile's famed Colchagua Valley.
They're bringing history into the present.
Putting an end to prohibition in upstate New York.
Pretty much everything we're doing is experimental.
Around the globe, mixologists, artisans, and distillers are crafting a world of specialty drinks and liquors as exciting and flavorful as the finest food. In fact, the world of spirits may never be the same again.
I think we're in the golden age of cocktails. There's more of a sophistication with what people are drinking nowadays. And it's at a stage now where there's a new line of thought of where cocktails are going. My name is Tony Coniaro. I work at the Sochu Lounge in London. My role here is the drinks concept.
Tony Coniaro is one of the most innovative bartenders in the field of molecular mixology. By applying scientific analysis to the blending of flavors, he's pushing the cocktail places we may never have imagined possible. Coniaro learned his trade from the best, working alongside one of the world's most innovative chefs, Heston Blumenthal, to develop the cocktail menu at the world-famous Fat Duck. As bar manager for the Sochu Lounge, he's known for mixing some of the most avant-garde cocktails in the UK.
Hello.
Hello there.
Well, this is our version of a prairie oyster. It is a tomato egg yolk, a gelatine film around liquid tomato juice. You've got red wine, a bit of olive oil, Tabasco sauce, and some shallot. So you would kind of eat it like an oyster. Innovation starts with looking at how cocktails work, looking at recipes and why they fit together.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
And then using what happens there and tweaking it in different ways.
Is it a food or is it a drink?
I think it's a hybrid. That's the closest I think I've got to a foodie drink.
It's very light on the palate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's an amuse-bouche, like a pre-drink. The bar is called Sochu Lounge. The name comes from the Japanese spirit sochu, which we marinate with kind of spices and fruits and herbs. This is the blood orange sochu. It's sochu that's been marinated with blood oranges for several months. This ice, it's been frozen over 4 days so that it's a lot harder ice. Obviously, the harder the ice, the longer it takes to melt. If you were to use, say, cubed ice, that would melt a lot faster and pull apart the integrity of the drink. Going back in history, this is how ice would have come. I like looking at the classics and seeing how they are made, but then, you know, there's a whole degree of innovation that kind of stems from that. This drink is a cherry blossom Bellini. Fresh cherries marinated in cherry blossom liqueur, and we're going to add Prosecco to that. Now, after Prohibition, the cocktail got a kind of bit of a battering. It was kind of in the late 80s, 90s that the resurgence of the cocktail came back.
It's got a subtle sort of softness to it.
Yeah, it softens out the end of the cherry,
It's
I'd
not
say.
too fruity, it's let's go with that. Cheers.
This is a hot clover club in a siphon.
And what's the ingredients of this one?
A rhubarb-infused gin, lemon, sugar, some egg white. We put the drink in the siphon and then add gas to it, so you get a nice frothy foam. Chin chin. Enjoy. Today we're going to debut the No. 5 cocktail. We played around with the idea of the label on the bottle to make a garnish that makes a statement. So it plays on the idea of the perfume label. The No. 5 cocktail kind of came from doing research because there are very definite parallels between how perfume works and what happens in cocktails, because it's about balance and, you know, flavour, smell. So the No. 5 had enough food-grade essences that I could translate back into, a cocktail. Okay, this is the high-proof alcohol, and this becomes the base of the blended essence. What I'm trying to do is blend a series of flavour smells. The essence of number 5 is 6 aromas: ylang-ylang, rose, jasmine, neroli, vetiver, and sandalwood. One of the things that you have to do within this is be very precise, because obviously the flavour is very, very intense. What we're doing is adding the blended essence now to the sugar cube, because the sugar cube will absorb the flavours, and when we put it into the champagne glass and add the champagne, it will create more bubbles. All right. Can I offer you the number 5 cocktail? This is debuting today. I mean, the way the drink works is you get the smell of the number 5, but the champagne tastes floral. It's like fusing of the senses. So what do you think?
No, it's really good.
I think I need a refill there because it's delicious.
So I have happy customers.
You have very happy customers.
Yeah.
How many more would you like to debut on this occasion?
The passion comes from, exploring possibilities. To see where can the cocktail go? What can we do with the cocktail in the future?
Okay, cheers.
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 In Kerala, there are toddy shops everywhere. Men begin their day with toddy and end their day with toddy. It's fermented coconut palm sap. I haven't tasted it myself. I'm looking forward to tasting it. It is supposed to be very strong, high alcohol content, and you drink it and it hits you right away. That's what I've heard. My name is Shobha Narayan, and I'm trying something today that I've never tried before. Cheers.
Keralites call the coconut palm the Kalpavrishka, the celestial tree that gives us everything. Its leaves are used for thatch, its fruits for chutneys, coconut milk, and coconut oil. The sap of the tree becomes coconut toddy, a liquor extracted by local toddy tappers. Its shelf life as a tasty beverage is all of 1 day, but after that, it's used to add a smoky buttermilk tartness to local dishes.
Kerala is along the coast of India by the Arabian Sea. It's the Malabar coast, as we call it. It's a beautiful, lush, green state. The seafood is very fresh and tasty. It's the land of coconuts. Toddy is ubiquitous in Kerala. This is a typical village toddy shop, and as you can see, they've started business early in the morning. There are men buying liquor. The trick in toddy is timing when you catch the sap. He says it's all in the tapping. This is the bone of a deer. They've put iron in the middle. That's why it's really heavy. His technique is he taps it on 2 sides, and when he thinks there's enough liquid inside it, he makes a hole in the bottom. This is katti. Katti is in Malayalam word for knife. This is what he uses to cut the palmyra sack. He releases the first liquid and then seals the palmyra with clay from very deep within the earth. This is so it doesn't leak. He says once you put a layer of this, it becomes hard like brick. And then you do nothing to it for 12 days. Only after that, the tree releases the liquor. So that's the second tapping. It's natural. It's from the tree. It ferments within the sac on the tree. So it's a completely natural process. It's just a gift from the coconut tree. So this is my first time drinking toddy. Cheers. There's so many layers of flavors. You think while you're drinking it, it's just going to be really sweet, but it isn't. It's really good. It's smoky. You can taste the coconut. It has a buttermilk flavor, but on top of that, there's an effervescence. It's like it pops in your mouth. He says this coconut sap that we've extracted remains as toddy for just 24 hours. And after that, it peaks, and then he can't sell it as liquor anymore. Then it becomes like really good vinegar. One of the things the owner was telling me was that he takes pride in the food he serves. They serve shellfish, they serve crab meat, they serve beef, they serve fresh fish that they catch in the lagoons behind. And he says the food in toddy shops is very tasty because raw toddy adds that extra zing. Well done. Everybody's envious.
In Chile, there's a tradition of artisan liqueurs brought over by the Spanish. It would be almost taken like medicine with a tablespoon or two, usually in their tea. It came in the Jesuits' pharmacy, and it comes from this medicinal tradition that the herbs and the fruit are very good for you. My name is Liz Kasky, and I run a culinary wine tour business from Santiago, Chile.
4 years ago, former restaurant owners Cristian Marin and Maria Orsi moved to the fertile Colchagua Valley, 80 miles south of Santiago, to begin making spirits. Like great chefs, they sought out the finest ingredients possible, going to any means necessary to find the purest spring water and alcohol on which their products are based. Today, they run Espiritus de Colchagua and have a reputation for producing some of the best artisanal liquors in the region.
Hola! Ya estamos casi listos. ¿Qué tal? This is Maria Orsi and Cristian Marin. They make artisan liqueurs in 20 different flavors from their house in Santa Cruz. Ah, ya.
Preparo.
Perfecto. The alcohol they buy from an Argentine-Italian man that's in a part of the countryside known as Mayoa. It's well known in Chile with the wine.
Okay. Si nosotros usamos una buena base para nuestros licores.
She said that choosing this base is the most important part in the sense that it's what's going to give the soul to their spirits, their liqueurs at the end. ¿Cuánto tenía el alcohol?
96.
This is 96% alcohol. So it's very high and not a nice thing to drink. So they added pure water to bring it down to 50. So we can taste it. Otherwise, it would just taste like heat in your mouth.
Es absolutamente cristalino, casi no tiene aromas.
She's saying it doesn't have any aroma. It's totally pure, crystalline in color.
Pero hay otros tipos de alcoholes.
So Cristian, who's very meticulous, went tasting with him and looking for the qualities to finally arrive that this was the alcohol that they were looking for. Maria gets her spring water from a man named Alejandro, who lives in a castle. Alejandro is waiting for us in the kitchen to show us how he pumps by hand in his castle this water.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Bien.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Ah, yeah. This is a manual pump that brings the water up from the spring directly below us. When he began construction on this castle, which is his life project, 20 years in the making, he was in the basement, digging out. All of a sudden, this water just started flooding in from nowhere. And he had to actually drain it off. O iba a hundir el castillo.
Claro.
Or it was going to drown the castle before it even got off the ground.
Se llena por una falla geológica.
The water comes from the glaciers in the Andes, and it's a very pure spring water for its mineral composition, which is very good for what they're looking to do in the liqueurs, which is a clean vehicle for the flavors. Porque quiere la cantó la menta y quiere con la luz. Por acá. He first starts in one of these chuecas, which is an indigenous word actually from the Puche Indians, for the wine vessels that the Spanish had brought.
Que sean digestivos.
He fills it with either the fruit, herbs, or dried spices. It smells almost like fresh mint, but the texture's changed. Then he adds the pure water, and then he adds the fire water on top of that.
No hay medidas. Nunca
They
hay
don't
medidas.
use exact measurements. It's kind of, as we say in Spanish, al ojo, by the eye. He's gonna shake it a little bit. to integrate the alcohol in the water. And then this is going to go to the aging room.
En realidad lo correcto es que va a estar macerada en otoño.
This liqueur will be resting here for 9 months.
En el comedor.
Okay. He's inviting me to taste the fruits of his labor, the fun part. This is the mint liqueur that we initiated the process. Now we're trying the final product.
Salud.
It's delicious.
Hoy, en Chile,
He said that in Chile, he's seen that the movement towards incorporating these native ingredients is happening, and it could go towards sophistication, but in their case, it's actually the opposite, that they're going towards the roots and a simple way of bringing history into the present.
My name's Ralph Lorenzo. This is Brian Lee, my partner.
Double trouble, boil and bubble.
We've taken an old granary here and converted it into a micro distillery. Everybody in town seems to like the idea that we've got a distillery, so it's been well received.
Yeah. You and your uncle.
We're at the Tuttletown Grist Mill, which is the oldest water-powered flour mill in New York State. If you're making bread, you take the grain, you grind it up, you mix it with water and yeast, and you heat it up and you make bread. And I was thinking, what else could we do along the same lines? And I realized we could make whiskey. It's the same thing, except when we heat it up, we're getting liquid out and not bread.
Located about 90 miles north of New York City, Tuttletown Spirits is the first and only micro distillery in New York to produce bourbon, rye, and vodka, since Prohibition put the kibosh on legal stills back in the 20s. Thanks to new rules on the books, Tuttletown is now able to produce spirits like fine wine. Each batch different from the rest, making their liquors sought after in New York and Paris. It may be a sign that we've officially entered the golden age of spirits.
What are these, 80-pound bags? 100 pounds. 100 pounds.
We start with the grain. We've been buying as much local grain as we possibly can. We picked an heirloom corn that can date back to Native American times, so it hasn't had the flavor bred out of it. We take about 800 pounds of that corn and 2 bags of malted barley, because it's the malt that contains the enzyme that allows the starch in the corn to be broken down to sugars that the yeast can turn into alcohol. Then we pump that cooked mash to tall fermenters, which allow the yeast to move around, and it stays there for 5-6 days. It sort of depends on how warm it is. This is the mash that's been fermenting since Monday. Corn, water, and yeast. And a couple secret ingredients, of course.
And there's that dance, don't forget, traditional corn whiskey dance.
Don't shoot the fly going around there.
After the yeast have completed their activity, the mash is pumped up. They're coming?
Yeah, it's coming good.
Pumped up through a long tube to the still. So that's the new batch coming up from downstairs. At that point, steam is put on the pot of the still.
A larger distillery making a lot of the same thing would have a column still that would be operating all the time continuously. Ours is a pot still. We fill it, we take all the alcohol out, we rectify it, we start again with another batch of fermented material. So every batch is unique. The bell tells us that the temperature has reached 79 degrees centigrade. That's a temperature at which alcohol begins to leave the solution and come through the system.
The hydrometer is starting to float now, and in a second it'll come through the spout there, and we'll be collecting, well, at least the first pass of corn whiskeys. Here it comes, right about now. We'll take that alcohol that we collect and dilute it and run it again. At that point, we'll be making head, heart, and tail cuts, and the heart will be collected for the product. Really, the reason distillation works is because different components have different boiling points, and they come off the pot at different temperatures. So the lower temperature alcohols, which you really don't want to collect, come off first. It's still got a lot of head in it, which doesn't taste so good. Ralph has a different method. He uses his tongue like a dog.
Yeah, because who knows where my hands have been. So So when you do the math, what it ends up is this is about 62.5% alcohol, which is just the right temperature to put it in the barrels. The barrels come to us dry, and when we fill them with water, they swell up and seal themselves up so they don't leak. And the little pieces of black you see coming out are charcoal. The inside of the barrel is heavily charred and helps purify the spirit by absorbing impurities, but it also caramelizes sugars that are in the wood, and that gives it a nice, mellow sweetness. So when we put it in the barrel, it will gain flavor from the oak and from the sugars and the tannins in the wood, and it will get a sort of golden color. Corn whiskey on the floor.
Quick, get the straws.
Stop it! Ow! These are very small batches. I think our largest bottling so far has been 800 bottles. A major distillery is spilling more in one day than we put in bottles in a year.
Give that a test.
This is called the baby, right?
Our clients are mostly whiskey aficionados, people who are looking for something unique and different.
So how is that?
I could drink this for a couple hours and take a nap. It's great.
Pretty much everything we're doing is experimental. And in fact, all of our whiskeys are the first whiskeys made in New York since Prohibition. The community of people who are getting into micro distilling is very forthcoming for the most part.
We are where microbrewing was 20, 25 years ago. We are at that edge now.
It's just the two of us. This is it.
People are always looking for something new.
We're looking, as a lot of people are looking, for something interesting. And that's what we're making.
Forensic science takes us one step closer to understanding the strange killings in the animal kingdom. The brand new series of Predator CSI, Wednesday on the National Geographic Channel.